Jake Morrison stared at the screen in front of him. His hands gripped the edge of the control panel as his ship moved closer to something that should not exist. The horizon's edge had been traveling through empty space for 6 months. They were looking for new planets and resources. Instead, they found this. The structure ahead was enormous. It floated in the darkness like a sleeping giant. The surface was covered in strange patterns that glowed with a soft blue light. Jake had seen many things in his 15 years as a commander, but nothing like this. Sophie Blake sat at her station to his left. She was the ship's navigation officer and one of the best pilots in the fleet. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls as she scanned the object ahead. "Commander, this thing is huge," Sophie said. Her voice was quiet but filled with surprise. "It's 3 times bigger than our moon back home, and the energy readings don't make sense." Henry Cole moved closer to look at Sophie's screen. He was the ship's scientist, an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He studied ancient civilizations and dead languages. Right now, those sharp eyes were wide with shock. "That's impossible," Henry whispered. He pointed at the symbols carved into the structure's surface. "Those markings. I can read them. They're in English, but they're also in languages that died out thousands of years ago." Jake felt a cold feeling in his chest. "How old is this thing?" Henry checked his equipment twice before answering. "At least 50,000 years old. Maybe older. But that can't be right. Humans were still living in caves back then. We didn't have technology. We didn't even have writing." The crew stood in silence. Everyone knew the history. Humans had only left Earth 300 years ago. When they reached the stars, they found dozens of other species already there. The Galactic Council had been running things for 10,000 years. Humans were the new kids, the last ones to join the party. Or so they thought. Jake made a decision. "Take us closer. I want to see this thing up close." Sophie guided the ship forward. As they approached, something amazing happened. The structure came to life. Lights flickered on across its surface. Panels slid open. A large door swung wide, showing a dark corridor inside. "It's responding to us," Sophie said. "It knows we're here." Henry's hands shook as he recorded everything. "It's welcoming us. Like it's been waiting." Jake stood up from his chair. "Prep the shuttle. We're going inside. Sophie, Henry, you're with me. The rest of you stay here and keep monitoring. If anything goes wrong, get away and report back to command." 20 minutes later, Jake floated through the airlock into the structure. His suit lights cut through the darkness. The corridor ahead was perfectly smooth. No dust, no damage. It looked brand new. "Air is breathable," Sophie said, checking her scanner. "Temperature is comfortable. Gravity is working." This place is still running after all this time. They moved deeper into the structure. Emergency lights turned on as they passed, lighting their way. The walls were covered in pictures and symbols. Henry stopped at everyone, taking photos and making notes. "These images tell a story," Henry said. "They show humans building cities in space. Humans creating artificial suns. Humans doing things we can't do even now with all our technology." Jake looked at one large image. It showed a fleet of ships so vast it covered the entire wall. Each ship was marked with symbols he recognized as human writing. Below the fleet was a planet. It was Earth. "If this is real, then everything we know is wrong," Jake said. "We're not newcomers. We've been here before." They entered a massive chamber at the heart of the structure. The room was filled with floating displays of light. Each one showed different information. Star maps, mathematical equations, genetic codes, instructions for building incredible machines. In the center of it all was an image of Earth surrounded by rings of metal and light. The date beneath it said 73,000 years ago. Sophie's voice was barely a whisper. "We did this. Humans did this." A voice suddenly filled the chamber. It spoke in perfect English. "Welcome home. I have been waiting for you." A figure appeared in front of them. It looked human but glowed with soft light. It wore robes that seemed to be made of stars. Its eyes were kind but ancient. "I am the keeper," the figure said. "I am the guardian of your history. The history you forgot. The history that was taken from you." Jake found his voice. "What are you? What is this place?" The keeper smiled sadly. "I am a recording. A memory preserved in light and code. This place is a monument, one of many scattered across the galaxy. We built them to store the truth, to keep it safe until you were ready to know it again." "Ready to know what?" Henry asked. The keeper gestured and the displays changed. They showed images of humans traveling between stars, humans meeting other species, humans teaching and building and creating. Long ago you were not the students, the keeper said. You were the teachers. You did not join the galactic community. You built it. Every species you know, every technology they use, every gate that connects the stars, all of it came from human hands. Jake felt like the floor was falling away beneath him. That's not possible. We would remember. We would know. You chose to forget, the keeper said. Your ancestors reached so high that they nearly destroyed everything. They fought a war that almost ended all life in the galaxy. When the dust settled, they made a choice. They decided to start over, to become small again, to learn humility before reaching for the stars a second time. Sophie sat down hard on the floor. Tears ran down her face. They erased everything? Our entire civilization? They saved it, the keeper corrected. They put it here in places like this so that one day you could find it again. When you were ready, when you had learned the lessons they forgot. Henry looked at all the information floating around them. What do we do with this? What do we tell people? The keeper's expression grew serious. That choice is yours. But know this. The other species remember. The Galactic Council knows what you were. They have been watching you, waiting to see if you would find these monuments, waiting to see if you would become dangerous again. Jake stood up straighter. They've been lying to us, treating us like children. They have been afraid of you, the keeper said. And now you must decide what kind of people you will be. Will you demand back what was taken? Will you seek revenge for the secrets kept? Or will you forge a new path forward? The chamber fell silent. Jake looked at his crew. They looked back at him with fear and wonder in their eyes. Whatever they decided next would change everything. Not just for humanity, but for every species in the galaxy. The truth was out. There was no putting it back. Far across the galaxy, in a space station called Unity Prime, something bad was happening. The station hung in orbit around a dead star. It was the home of the Galactic Council, where leaders from 47 different species met to make decisions. The council chamber was a huge sphere. Each species had its own special pod that kept them alive. Some needed water. Some needed different air. Some were made of crystal and talked using light. All of them were scared. Ambassador Thelix floated in a pod near the center. Thelix was Krathari, a being made of living crystal that flashed different colors to show emotion. Right now, Thelix was flashing dark red. That meant danger. Thelix sent images into the shared space where everyone could see them. The images showed the same structure that Jake and his crew had found, but they also showed dozens more like it, scattered throughout the galaxy. The humans have found a monument, Thelix said through a translation device. After 10,000 years of hiding the truth, they know. High Chancellor Vryn stood up in his pod. He was from the Hive Collective, a species that looked like huge insects. His body was covered in shiny black armor. His many eyes looked at each council member. This is what we feared, Vryn said. His voice came out as clicks and buzzes that the translators turned into words. We knew this day would come. We just hoped it would not be in our lifetime. Elder Nira's pod rippled with concern. Nira was aqueous, a species that lived entirely in liquid. Her body was like living water, held together by a form of energy humans did not understand. She had been on the council longer than anyone else. Our ancestors warned us, Nira said. Her voice sounded like waves on a beach. They told us what the humans were, what they built, what they gave us, and what they could become again if they remembered. Counselor Kess paced in her pod. She was Lenari, a species that looked like humans mixed with cats. She had fur, sharp teeth, and eyes that could see in the dark. Right now, those eyes were full of worry. Every species here owes something to the humans, Kess said. The Krathari were given intelligence by human scientists. The Hive Collective was taught how to travel between stars by human engineers. My own people were uplifted from animals into thinking beings by human genetic work. She stopped pacing and looked at the other council members. We built our civilizations on the ruins of theirs. We use their technology. We live on their worlds. We travel through gates they constructed. Everything we are came from them. Ambassador Thelix flashed bright yellow, which meant agreement, and we never told them. We watched them climb back from nothing. We saw them develop space travel again. We let them join the council as if they were new, as if they were less than us. We had good reasons, Vryn said, but his voice was not confident. The records left by the ancients were clear. The humans nearly destroyed everything. They had weapons that could kill stars. They had the power to reshape reality itself. They turned that power against each other and almost ended all life in the galaxy. Elder Nira's pod grew still. That was their past. What about their present? What about who they are now? That is the question, Kes said. Are they the same species that almost destroyed us all? Or are they different now? Counselor Drevin spoke for the first time. He was from the Torvin, a species of reptiles known for their long memory. His scales were blue and green and his eyes were like a snake's. I have studied the humans carefully, Drevin said. For 300 years I have watched them. They are curious. They are creative. They are also violent and stubborn. But they are not cruel. They make friends easily. They help others without asking for reward. They are not their ancestors. Vrin's mandibles clicked with frustration. That does not matter. Once they learn what they were, they will want it back. They will demand their technology, their worlds, their place as rulers of the galaxy. What will we do then? The council chamber fell into troubled silence. Each member thought about what might happen next. Some thought about war. Some thought about negotiation. All of them thought about fear. Ambassador Thelix flashed white, which meant honesty. We should have told them from the beginning. We should have given them the choice to know their own history. Instead, we lied through silence. We treated them as lesser beings while knowing they built everything we stand on. It is too late for regrets, Vrin said. The question is what we do now. Do we apologize? Do we offer to return what was theirs? Do we prepare for conflict? We wait, Elder Nira said. Her voice was calm like deep water. We wait and see what the humans choose to do. They have surprised us before. Perhaps they will surprise us again. Kes shook her head. And if they choose violence? If they decide to take back what they built? Then we face the consequences of our choices, Nira said. We hid the truth out of fear. Perhaps it is time we face that fear honestly. The council began to argue. Some wanted to send ships to stop the humans from finding more monuments. Others wanted to destroy the monuments entirely. A few brave voices suggested telling the humans everything and asking for forgiveness. In the middle of all the arguing, a new voice spoke. You should have trusted us. Everyone turned to look. Ambassador Zara Quinn floated into the chamber. She was human, one of 3 human representatives on the council. She had short dark hair and sharp eyes that looked at each council member with disappointment. How long have you known? Zara asked. Her voice was quiet, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. The council members looked at each other. No one wanted to answer. Since the beginning, Elder Nira finally said. Since the day humans arrived in our space 300 years ago. We recognized your ships. They were built from old plans you had forgotten. Plans your ancestors left behind. Zara closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, tears were falling down her face. But her voice was steady. You treated us like children, she said. You smiled and welcomed us to the galactic community. You acted like you were doing us a favor by letting us join, all while knowing that we built this community in the first place. We were afraid, Vrin said, but his voice was weak. You were cowards, Zara said. The words hit like a hammer. And now my people are going to learn the truth. Commander Morrison is on his way back to Earth right now with everything he found. Soon every human will know what we were, what we gave up, and what you kept from us. She looked around the chamber at all the different species. I suggest you prepare yourselves, because when my people decide what to do next, you are going to have to live with it. Zara turned and left the chamber. The council members sat in silence, each one thinking about the same thing. The humans were coming. The question was whether they would come as friends or as something else entirely. The Horizon's Edge entered Earth's orbit 3 weeks after leaving the monument. Jake stood on the bridge and looked down at his home world. The blue and green planet looked the same as always, but everything was different now. Knowledge had a way of changing things, even when nothing physical had changed. Every government on Earth was waiting for his report. Every news station was broadcasting speculation. The rumors had already started spreading. People knew something big had been found. They just did not know what. Sophie sat at her station, quiet and tired. She had barely slept since they left the monument. None of them had. Henry had spent the entire trip reviewing all the data they collected, trying to make sense of it. Command is ordering us to land at Geneva, Sophie said. The World Council wants to hear from us directly. Jake nodded. Take us down. 2 hours later, Jake walked into the council chamber in Geneva. The room was full of people. Leaders from every nation sat in curved rows, all facing a central platform. Security guards stood at every door. Cameras recorded everything. President Liu of the Asian Federation spoke first. "Commander Morrison, please tell us what you found." Jake took a deep breath and began to speak. He told them about the monument, about the Keeper, about the images and data showing humans building the galaxy. He told them everything. The room was silent when he finished. Then everyone started talking at once. "This is impossible," shouted Prime Minister Webb from the Atlantic Union. "We would have evidence. We would have found something before now." "We did find something," Henry said. He stood up next to Jake. "We just did not understand what we were looking at. Ancient structures on Mars that we thought were natural. Strange genetic markers in dozens of alien species. The jump gate network that no one could explain who built it. All of it was ours." President Liu held up her hand for silence. "If this is true, then the Galactic Council has been lying to us for 300 years. They knew. They watched us struggle and learn and build, and they never told us the truth. They were scared," Sophie said. "The Keeper told us our ancestors nearly destroyed everything. Maybe the Council thought we would do the same thing again." Chancellor Petrov of the Northern States stood up. He was an old man with white hair and a strong voice. "Scared or not, they had no right to hide our history from us. They treated us like fools, like children who could not handle the truth." "What do we do about it?" asked President Santos from the Southern Alliance. "Do we demand our technology back? Do we claim the worlds that were once ours? Do we take our place as the rightful leaders of the galaxy?" The room erupted into arguments again. Some wanted to reclaim everything. Others wanted to avoid conflict. A few suggested using the knowledge to make weapons and force the other species to respect them. Jake felt sick listening to them argue. This was exactly what the Keeper had warned about. The temptation to use power instead of wisdom. "Stop," Jake said. His voice was not loud, but something in it made everyone quiet down. "We need to think carefully about what we do next." "What is there to think about?" Chancellor Petrov asked. "We were robbed of our heritage. Were we?" Jake asked. "The Keeper said our ancestors chose to forget. They looked at what they had become and decided to start over. They wanted us to learn differently, to grow up without the weight of empire on our shoulders." Henry nodded. "The data supports that. The monuments were not hidden by the other species. They were hidden by humans. Our own ancestors put them in hard-to-find places and programmed them to only activate when we were technologically advanced enough to understand them. So, our ancestors wanted us to forget," President Liu said slowly. "But why?" "Because they almost killed everything," Sophie said. "The Keeper showed us images of the war. Entire star systems destroyed. Billions dead. The humans were so powerful that when they fought each other, the whole galaxy burned." She looked around the room. "They gave up their power to save everyone, including us, their descendants. They chose to let us start fresh without the burden of their mistakes." Prime Minister Webb leaned back in his chair. "That is a heavy thing to think about, but it does not change the fact that the Galactic Council lied to us." "No, it does not," Jake agreed, "and we need to address that. But we need to be smart about how we do it. If we come at them with demands and threats, we prove that we are exactly what they feared. We prove that humans cannot handle power responsibly. And if we do nothing," Chancellor Petrov asked, "if we accept their lies and move on?" "I am not suggesting we do nothing," Jake said. "I am suggesting we show them who we really are. Not who we were 70,000 years ago. Not the empire builders or the weapon makers, but who we are right now. People who learned to work together. People who chose cooperation over conquest." President Santos stood up. "What exactly are you proposing, Commander?" Jake looked at each leader in turn. "I propose we invite the Galactic Council to Earth. We tell them we know the truth. We tell them we are disappointed that they hid it from us. But we also tell them we understand their fear." "And then what?" Webb asked. "And then we offer them partnership," Jake said. "Real partnership. Not the false kind where they smile and treat us like junior members. We tell them we want a seat at the table as equals. We want honesty going forward. We want to work together to make sure the mistakes of the past are never repeated." The room was quiet. Leaders looked at each other, thinking about Jake's words. Elder Okafor from the African Collective stood up. She was the oldest member of the World Council, and her wisdom was respected by everyone. "The young commander speaks well," she said. "Revenge would be easy. Demanding our so-called birthright would feel good in the moment. But what would it cost us in the long run? What would we become?" She walked to the center of the platform. "Our ancestors had all the power in the galaxy, and it made them monsters. They destroyed themselves and nearly took everyone else with them. They gave us a gift by letting us start over, by letting us learn humility and cooperation first. Should we throw that gift away the moment we learn about it?" President Liu stood up next to her. "Elder Okafor is right. We have a choice to make. We can be the humans of the past, powerful and destructive, or we can be the humans of the future, wise and cooperative. The Council will not agree to equal partnership easily," Chancellor Petrov said. "They have held power for 10,000 years, Jake smiled. "Then we show them they have no choice. Not through threats, but through demonstration. We open the monuments. We share what we learn with everyone. We show them that we are not afraid of knowledge and we are not going to hoard it like they did." Henry stepped forward. "The monuments contain incredible technology. Medicine that could extend life. Energy sources that could power entire planets. Scientific knowledge that could advance every species by centuries. If we share it freely, we prove we are different from our ancestors," Sophie added. "And if the Council tries to stop us or push back, they show everyone that they are more interested in control than in progress. They lose the moral high ground." President Liu looked around the room. "I think we have our answer. We will invite the Galactic Council to Earth. We will tell them we know the truth, and we will offer them a choice. Join us in building a better future, or step aside and let us do it without them." The vote was unanimous. Earth would respond to the Council's lies not with anger, but with an offer of something better. As Jake left the chamber, he felt hope for the first time since finding the monument. Maybe humans had learned something after all. Maybe the sacrifice of their ancestors had not been in vain. Now they just had to convince the rest of the galaxy. 3 months passed. During that time, Earth changed in ways no one expected. The news about the monument spread quickly. At first there was anger. People felt betrayed by the Galactic Council. Protests happened in major cities. Some groups called for war, but something else happened too. Scientists around the world started working together like never before. They analyzed the data from the monument. They found cures for diseases. They developed new energy sources. And they shared everything freely with the other human colonies spread across space. Jake watched it all from his position as the newly appointed director of monument research. The World Council had put him in charge of exploring the other monuments and deciding what knowledge to release and when. Henry led teams of scientists into 3 more monuments. Each one held different information. One focused on medicine and biology. Another held star charts and navigation data. The third contained plans for building structures in space that could house millions of people. Sophie trained new pilots to explore the furthest reaches of space, looking for more monuments. They found 12 more in just 3 months. Each discovery brought new knowledge and new possibilities. On the day the Galactic Council ships arrived, Jake stood at the landing platform in Geneva. The whole World Council stood with him. Cameras from around the world recorded everything. The Council ships landed one by one. Each ship was different, designed for the species inside. The Krathari ship looked like a floating crystal. The Hive Collective ship was dark and covered in what looked like armor. The Aqueous ship was transparent, showing the water inside. High Chancellor Vryn was the first to emerge. His insect body moved carefully down the ramp. His many eyes looked at the humans gathered to meet him. Ambassador Thelix came next, flashing colors that showed nervousness. Elder Nira floated in a special pod that kept her water form contained. President Liu stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth, High Chancellor. Thank you for accepting our invitation." Vryn's mandibles clicked. The translator device turned it into words. "We could hardly refuse. Your message was quite clear. You know the truth and you wish to discuss it." "We do," Liu said. "Please follow us." They walked to the council chamber. This time it had been modified. Special environments had been built for each visiting species. The aqueous had a water tank. The Krathari had a chamber filled with the right kind of light. The hive representatives had a space kept at their preferred temperature. When everyone was settled, President Liu began. "Let me be direct. You lied to us. For 300 years you knew what we were and you said nothing. You treated us as newcomers when we were the ones who built the very foundations you stand on. Vryn did not try to deny it. We did. We were afraid of what you might become if you knew. And what did you think we would become? Chancellor Petrov asked. Monsters? Conquerors? Like our ancestors. Elder Nira's voice rippled through her chamber. Yes, that is exactly what we feared. Your ancestors nearly ended all life in the galaxy. They had power beyond imagining, and they used it to destroy each other. We did not want to see that happen again. Jake stood up. So instead of trusting us, you lied. You made us believe we were less than we are. Thelix flashed dark blue, which meant shame. We thought we were protecting the galaxy. We thought if you never knew about your past, you would never become what your ancestors were. But you were wrong, Henry said. He projected images into the shared space. They showed humans working together, sharing knowledge, helping other species. You assumed we would repeat the mistakes of the past. You never considered that we might have learned from starting over. The images changed. They showed the medicines developed from monument data, the energy solutions being shared with other species, the plans to build homes in space for anyone who needed them. We found the monuments, Henry continued. We learned what we were. And what did we do? Did we demand the galaxy bow to us? Did we build weapons? Did we threaten you? He looked at each council member. No, we did what our ancestors should have done. We shared, we cooperated. We offered to help everyone benefit from the knowledge we found. Councillor Kess leaned forward in her chamber. We have been watching. We have seen what you have done with the monument data. We expected demands. We expected threats. Instead, you gave freely. Because that is who we are now, Sophie said. We are not the humans of 70,000 years ago. We are different, better. We learned humility by starting from nothing. We learned cooperation by being the weakest species in the galaxy. Those lessons matter. Vryn's body was very still. What do you want from us? Truth, President Liu said. Moving forward, we want honesty. No more secrets. No more treating us like children who cannot handle difficult information. Respect, Jake added. We want to be treated as equals. Our voice should carry the same weight as any other species on the council. And partnership, Elder Okafor said. She stood up, her old body moving slowly but with dignity. We do not want to rule. We do not want to reclaim what was lost. We want to work together to build something better than what came before. The chamber was quiet. The council members looked at each other. Finally, Elder Nira spoke. You surprise us, she said. We expected anger. We expected demands for reparations or territory. Instead, you offer partnership. Because that is what adults do, President Santos said. They do not throw tantrums when they learn difficult truths. They find ways to move forward. Vryn made a sound that the translator could not interpret. Then he spoke. You shame us. You show more wisdom than we did. We let fear guide our choices. We treated you poorly because we were afraid of your potential, and now you respond with grace. We respond with wisdom, Jake corrected. The wisdom our ancestors lacked. They had power and no restraint. We have restraint and growing power. That combination is what the galaxy needs. Thelix flashed bright white. What happens now? President Liu smiled. Now we rewrite the rules. We create a new council structure where all species are truly equal. We open the monuments to research teams from every civilization. We share the knowledge freely and work together to use it wisely. And what of the weapons? A new voice asked. Councillor Drevin, the Torvan representative, had been quiet until now. The monuments contain weapon designs. Terrible weapons. What will you do with those? Destroy the data, Jake said without hesitation. We have already done so for 3 weapon systems we found. We will not rebuild the tools of our ancestors' destruction. Henry nodded. The monuments contain enough peaceful knowledge to advance the galaxy by 1,000 years. We do not need weapons. We need medicine, energy, transportation, and communication. That is what we will focus on. Elder Nira floated closer to her chamber wall. You have given this much thought. We had 3 months, Sophie said. We used that time to decide what kind of people we want to be. Turns out we want to be better than both our ancestors and better than what you feared we would become. Vryn stood up. I think I speak for the entire council when I say we were wrong. We were wrong to hide the truth. We were wrong to treat you as lesser beings, and we were wrong to assume you would follow the path of your ancestors. He looked at his fellow council members. One by one they nodded or made gestures of agreement. We accept your offer, Vryn said. We will restructure the council. We will ensure all species have equal voice and equal respect. And we will work with you to unlock the knowledge of the monuments responsibly. Thelex flashed golden, which meant hope. Perhaps this is the beginning of something better. Not human dominance. Not council control, but true cooperation. President Liu extended her hand toward Vryn. He reached out with one of his legs and touched her hand gently. It was an awkward gesture between two very different species, but it meant everything. A new beginning, Liu said, for all of us. The chamber erupted in discussion as the details were worked out. But the hard part was done. The truth was known. The lies were ended. And instead of tearing them apart, the revelation had brought them together. Jake watched it all and felt proud. Proud of his species. Proud of what they had chosen to become. The ancestors had been powerful and destructive. But their children were wise and generous. That was a better legacy than any empire could ever be. Outside, the sun set over Geneva. The first day of the new galactic age was ending. Tomorrow would bring challenges and difficult choices. But for now there was hope. And hope was enough to build on. I hope the ancients can see this, Jake said quietly. I hope they know their sacrifice was worth it. Henry joined him at the window. I think they do. They built the monuments to last forever. They wanted us to find them. They wanted us to learn from their mistakes. And we are. Sophie stood on Jake's other side. We are what they hoped we would be. Not perfect, not all-powerful, but wise enough to know we need each other. Below them, a who. 6 months after the council meeting in Geneva, Jake stood inside the largest monument ever discovered. It was hidden in a nebula at the edge of the galaxy. The structure was so massive it had its own gravity. Inside, the hall seemed to go on forever. A team of researchers walked beside him. They came from 12 different species. Humans worked next to Krathari scientists. Hive engineers compared notes with aqueous biologists. Even the usually isolated Torvin had sent representatives. Sophie led the navigation team. She had become an expert at reading the monument systems. Her fingers moved across a holographic display, opening new sections of the database. This monument is different from the others, Sophie said. It's not just a library. It's a teaching center. The humans who built it wanted to leave lessons, not just information. Henry walked ahead, his scanner recording everything. He stopped at a massive mural that covered an entire wall. It showed the history of humanity in images. Early humans learning to make fire, building cities, reaching for the stars, growing into an empire. And then the fall. Look at this, Henry called to the others. He pointed at the final image. It showed humans making a choice. On one side was a path of continued power and eventual destruction. On the other side was a path of humility and new beginning. The humans in the image were choosing the second path. A Krathari scientist named Vex floated closer. Vex's crystalline body pulsed with interest. They knew what they were giving up. This was not an accident or a collapse. It was a deliberate choice. A sacrifice, Jake said quietly. They sacrificed everything they built so that we could have a chance to do better. The team moved deeper into the monument. They entered a chamber that held what the monument called teaching stones. These were special data storage devices that did not just give information. They showed experiences. They let the viewer feel what it was like to live through the events being taught. Jake picked up one of the stones. It was smooth and warm in his hand. When he activated it, his vision changed. Suddenly he was somewhere else. He was standing on a planet he did not recognize. Cities stretched to the horizon, all built with technology far beyond anything modern humans had. Ships filled the sky, but something was wrong. The cities were burning. The sky was full of weapons fire. People were screaming. Jake watched as humans fought humans. Not with simple weapons, but with devices that tore apart reality itself. He saw a weapon activate that made an entire city simply stop existing. He felt the horror of the people watching it happen. The vision changed. Now he was in a massive meeting hall. Human leaders from across the galaxy had gathered. They looked tired, sad, defeated. We have become monsters, one leader said. Jake could hear the man's voice as if he was standing right there. We reached for the stars and found only darkness within ourselves. The other species fear us, a woman added. They should. We created them and now we are destroying them along with ourselves. An old man stood up. We have a choice. We can continue this path until nothing is left, or we can choose something different, something harder. What choice is that? Someone asked. We give it all up, the old man said. We erase our technology. We scatter ourselves back to our origin world. We become small again. We let our children grow up, without the weight of empire crushing them. You are talking about the end of human civilization. Someone protested. I am talking about the beginning of human wisdom, the old man replied. Power without wisdom leads to destruction. We have proven that. So we give up the power and hope that our descendants find the wisdom. The vision showed the debate that followed. It lasted for days, but in the end the decision was made. Humanity would reset itself. The monuments would be built to preserve the knowledge. The other species would be told to keep the secret. And humans would start over. Jake felt tears on his face as the vision ended. He was back in the chamber holding the teaching stone. The other researchers were experiencing their own visions from other stones. A hive engineer named Carr stood nearby, his body shaking. I saw how my species was created. Human scientists took simple insects and gave them intelligence. They gave us everything we are. Vex, the Krathari scientist, pulsed with emotion. My people were rocks, minerals. The humans found a way to give us life and thought. We owe our existence to them. An aqueous researcher named Mira rippled in her containment suit. They could have kept us as servants, as tools, but they gave us freedom. They taught us and then let us grow on our own. Sophie wiped her eyes. They were not perfect. They made terrible mistakes, but in the end, they tried to do the right thing. Henry sat down heavily. The council was right to be afraid. Our ancestors had the power to reshape the galaxy. When they fought, billions died. But they were also wrong. Our ancestors learned from their mistakes. They made the ultimate sacrifice to give us a better chance. Jake looked at the team around him. Different species, all learning the same truth together. We need to show this to everyone. Not just the leadership. Everyone in the galaxy needs to understand what happened. What was sacrificed, and why. Some humans will be angry, Sophie said. They will think our ancestors were cowards for giving up power. Let them be angry, Jake said. But make sure they understand the whole truth. Our ancestors were not cowards. They were brave enough to admit they had failed. Brave enough to sacrifice everything for their children's future. Over the next months, the teaching stones were shared across the galaxy. Special centers were built where anyone could come and experience the visions. Humans learned about their past. Other species learned how much they owed to ancient humanity. The response was mixed. Some humans felt pride that their ancestors had been so powerful. Others felt shame at the destruction they caused. Many felt grateful for the sacrifice that gave them a new start. The other species had their own complicated feelings. Some felt they should repay the debt they owed to humanity. Others worried about what it meant that their entire existence was designed by another species. Most simply felt a new respect for the choice the ancient humans made. But something important happened as the knowledge spread. The galaxy started to see itself differently. They were not separate species competing for resources and power. They were all connected by a shared history. The humans had built the foundation, but everyone had helped build what came after. New partnerships formed. The Krathari, who owed their existence to human science, began teaching humans advanced physics. The Hive Collective, who learned space travel from humans, shared their advanced engineering. The Aqueous, who had been given life by human hands, taught humans about biology in ways they had never understood before. Knowledge flowed freely in all directions. The monuments stopped being just human heritage. They became shared heritage. The lessons they contained were for everyone. Jake watched it all from his office on Unity Prime. He had been elected as the first human High Chancellor of the Galactic Council. It was a position he never wanted but accepted, because someone had to guide the changes happening across the galaxy. Sophie came into his office carrying reports. She was now the head of monument research, taking over from Jake. We found 20 more monuments this month. At this rate, we will have cataloged all of them within 2 years. And the weapon data? Jake asked. Destroyed as agreed, Sophie said. Every council member witnessed the deletion. No one objected. Turns out everyone is relieved we are not rebuilding the tools of destruction. Henry entered next. He had been appointed as the head of the new Galactic University, a place where all species could learn together. The first class graduated today. 50 students from 20 different species. They learned history, science, and ethics. All of them together. Ethics. Jake asked. Henry smiled. We decided it was important. The monuments teach us that power without wisdom is dangerous. So now we teach wisdom alongside knowledge. We teach students to think about the consequences of what they create. Jake looked out the window at the stars. Do you think we are doing the right thing? Our ancestors tried to build a perfect galaxy and failed. What makes us think we can do better? We are not trying to build a perfect galaxy, Sophie said. We are just trying to build a better one. And we are not doing it alone. We are doing it together, Henry nodded. That is the difference. The ancients tried to do everything themselves. They had all the power, so they made all the decisions. We are sharing the power, so we share the decisions and the consequences. Together is always harder, Jake said. Everyone has to compromise. Everyone has to listen to opinions they disagree with. But together is also stronger, Sophie replied. When one species makes a mistake, the others help fix it. When one species finds something good, everyone benefits. That is what our ancestors should have done. Jake stood up and walked to the window. Ships from dozens of species moved through the space around Unity Prime. They were building new stations, new homes, new futures, and they were doing it together. 5 years after the first monument was discovered, Jake stood in a place that did not exist before. The Gateway Station floated at the center of the galaxy, built using plans from the monuments combined with modern innovations from a dozen species. The station was enormous. It housed 2 million people from 47 different species. It was not just a space station. It was a city in the stars, a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. Jake walked through the main plaza. Children from different species played together. A young human girl was teaching a Krathari child how to throw a ball. A hive youngling was learning to paint from an aqueous artist. Everywhere he looked, he saw species mixing and learning from each other. Sophie walked beside him. She had gray in her hair now. 5 years of hard work leading the Monument Research Program had aged her, but she smiled more than she used to. Remember when we first entered that monument? Sophie asked. We were so scared. We did not know what we would find or what it would mean. Jake nodded. I thought learning the truth would tear the galaxy apart. Instead, it brought us together. They reached the central tower of the station. Henry was waiting for them in his office. He looked older too, but happy. His work at the Galactic University had changed how species thought about education. Now students learned not just facts, but how to think, how to question, and how to work with others different from themselves. Are you ready? Henry asked. As ready as I will ever be, Jake replied. They took an elevator to the top of the tower. There, in a special chamber, was the last unopened monument data core. It had been discovered 3 months ago in a system so remote that no one had ever explored it before. This core was different from all the others. It was sealed with warnings. Messages in every ancient human language said the same thing. Open only when you are ready. Open only when you have learned. Open only when you understand the price of power. The Galactic Council had debated for weeks about whether to open it. Some said they should leave it sealed forever. Others said they needed to know what it contained. In the end, they decided that Jake, Sophie, and Henry should make the choice. They were the ones who found the first monument. They should decide about the last. Representatives from every council species watched through screens. The whole galaxy was paying attention. Jake placed his hand on the seal. Once we open this, we cannot close it again. Whatever is inside will become known. We have learned so much, Sophie said. We have used the knowledge wisely. We destroyed the weapons. We shared the benefits We built this station together. If we are not ready now, we never will be. Henry nodded. Our ancestors left us a test. This is it. Do we trust ourselves with whatever they kept locked away? I think we do. Jake pressed his hand firmly on the seal. It glowed bright blue, then dissolved. The core opened. Inside was not technology or weapons or terrible secrets. Inside was a message. A hologram activated, showing the same old man Jake had seen in the teaching stones, the man who had convinced ancient humanity to give up their power. If you are watching this, then you have passed the test, the old man said. His voice was tired but proud. You found the monuments. You learned the truth. And you did not use it to hurt others. You shared it. You cooperated. You built something better than what we destroyed. The hologram showed images of the Gateway Station, somehow predicting what would be built. We hoped you would do this. We hoped our children would be wiser than we were. It seems you are. The old man smiled. This final core contained something we held back from the others. Not weapons, not power, but knowledge of something we never achieved. We learned how to extend life, how to cure disease, how to build incredible things, but we never learned the most important lesson. He paused. We never learned how to live with each other in peace. We never learned how to truly work together across our differences. We conquered the galaxy but could not conquer our own pride and fear. The image changed. It showed plans for something incredible. A network that would connect not just jump gates but minds, not to control but to understand. A way for different species to truly know each other, to share experiences and feelings without losing their individuality. We built the foundation for this, the old man continued, but we never completed it. We did not trust ourselves enough. We did not trust each other enough. Maybe you can do what we could not. The hologram faded, leaving just his final words. You are our hope. You are our redemption. Build the galaxy we dreamed of but never created, and forgive us for our failures. The chamber was silent. Jake looked at the plans floating in the air. This technology would let a human truly understand what it felt like to be Krathari. It would let the Hive Collective experience the flow of aqueous thought. It would break down the final barriers between species. This is incredible, Sophie whispered, and terrifying. What if someone misuses it? What if it gets twisted into a control tool? Then we will have failed the test after all, Henry said. But I do not think we will. Look at what we have built in 5 years. This station, the university, the shared research programs. We have proven we can handle knowledge responsibly. Jake thought about it carefully. This was the biggest decision he would ever make. We do not decide this alone. We bring this to the full council. Every species votes. And we only move forward if everyone agrees, all of us together, or none of us at all. The council met the next day in the great chamber of Gateway Station. Every species sent their representatives. Even species that had never attended before came to participate. This decision was too important to miss. Jake presented the plans. He explained what the technology would do and what risks it carried. He showed them the old man's message. Then he stepped back and let them discuss. The debate lasted for 3 days. Every concern was heard. Every fear was addressed. Some species worried about privacy. Others worried about losing their identity. A few worried it was too much, too fast. But slowly something beautiful happened. The species started talking about possibilities instead of just problems. The Krathari pointed out how it could help them understand emotions better, something their crystalline nature made difficult. The Hive Collective wondered if it would help them explain their group consciousness to individual-minded species. On the 3rd day, Counselor Kess of the Lenari stood up. I have been listening to everyone. I hear the fears. I share them, but I also hear something else. I hear hope. I hear the possibility of truly ending misunderstanding between species. She looked around the chamber. My people have a saying, the only way to defeat fear is to face it together. We could lock this technology away and never use it. That would be safe. But it would also mean we learned nothing from the human sacrifice. Elder Nira rippled in agreement. The ancients gave up everything because they let fear control them. They feared their own nature. They feared each other. They feared change. We can choose differently. We can choose trust. Vryn, who was no longer High Chancellor but still respected, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. I spent 10,000 years afraid of what humans might become. That fear made me lie. It made me treat them poorly. It made me fail in my duty as a leader. I will not let fear control me anymore. He turned to look at Jake. I vote yes. We build this together. We use it wisely. And if we fail, at least we fail while trying to do something great rather than hiding from possibility. One by one, each species voted. Some took longer to decide than others. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. They would build the connection network together. The work took 10 more years. Scientists and engineers from every species contributed. They built safeguards into the technology. Privacy controls. Limits on use. Ways to disconnect instantly if anyone felt uncomfortable. They tested it carefully, making sure it did what they hoped and nothing more. Jake was an old man by the time the network went live. He sat in his home on Earth, watching the activation ceremony on the screen. Sophie and Henry were there with him. They had all retired years ago, but they wanted to witness this moment together. Around the galaxy, millions of beings connected to the network for the first time. A human scientist felt what it was like to be made of living crystal. A Krathari artist experienced human emotion in its full depth. An aqueous teacher understood the complex structure of hive group thought. No one lost themselves. No one was controlled. They simply understood each other in a way that had never been possible before. Jake felt tears running down his old face. We did it. We actually did it, Sophie held his hand. The ancients would be proud, Henry smiled. They gave us the chance. We made it real. On the screen, they watched as beings from different species hugged each other, laughed together, and celebrated not just the technology but what it represented. Understanding, connection, true unity in diversity. Jake thought about the long journey from that first monument. They had learned the truth about humanity's past. They had confronted the lies that were told. They had faced the temptation of power, and they had chosen wisdom over strength, cooperation over dominance, hope over fear. What do you think happens now? Sophie asked. Jake looked at his old friends. They had traveled so far together, learned so much, changed so much. Now we keep building. We keep learning. We keep trying to be better than we were yesterday. That is all anyone can do, Henry said. The